mild move that we've seen in the dollar yen, but the Nikkei higher by close to around 2%.
As a result of this increased concern about recession, the expectations for rate cuts in 2019 stands at 67%.
Liquidity-driven rallies will fail if earnings don't catch up.
The big central banks are now in easing mode, and that will necessarily have a large impact on emerging markets.
The June reading of this survey has been the most bearish in terms of investor confidence since the time of global financial crisis.
55 points higher on the Nifty, 11,748.
There is no a big hope in the very short term that things will turn around. So to that extent, I think market will remain quite range bound.
93 points on the Nifty. It's basically reflecting what's happening in the rest of Asia.
The State Bank of India, the key lender to Jet Airways, which filed insolvency petition against the airlines yesterday, that plea has been taken up by the NCLT.
As per market sources, investors' confidence has been hurt despite the fact that the PIL has been withdrawn.
The Nifty is at 11,696.
Okay, what a day it's been. It started with a big rally, 100 points on the Nifty, and all of that has been given up. The Bank Nifty is still holding in the green, but from a 350-point rally, we're now down to about only 70 points. This is as classical as it gets in terms of sell-on rally. This is Closing Bell. I'm Anuj, and with me Surabhi. Hi Surabhi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Anuj. I mean, sometimes you start losing track of days because it's this sort of the same situation that we seem to be finding ourselves in again and again. This mid-cap carnage, Jain Irrigation, ADAG Group, Jet Airways, the kind of volatility we've seen on Indiabulls Housing, for instance, today. Is this the reason why our market chose not to participate with Asia, or is there something else to today's downward move?
No, we did participate for some time, for 1 hour. But look, the point we made in the morning as well, even liquidity-driven rallies will always be vulnerable to be sold into. If you are going through a phase in which you're seeing quite a bit of selling and you give market bears a 100-point gap up, they would sell. And my problem is that now, looking at the texture of the market, forget about reclaiming the gains. I think if yesterday's low breaks, Surabhi, then I think you could be in for serious trouble, because the sense you got was that yesterday's low was holding, and that would be line in sand now going forward. If that breaks, then the market will have a lot to deal with. Also, while normally you go into the Fed event with long positions, this time it could be slightly different, because this time the market's already reacted to ECB and a couple of other events, and now tomorrow there's a good chance that at least tomorrow overnight the Fed doesn't act in terms of rate cut. So you started to see global market already cooling off a bit. I think Dow futures is a bit soft. So give and take everything, and the way the mid caps and small caps have been butchered today, it's telling you that that Swachh Bharat Abhiyan that we spoke about, I think it's got some more legs to go. Stocks don't fall 25% and then next day fall 25% on top of that. I'm referring to Jain Irrigation. So obviously there's something wrong here in a lot of these stocks. And once this series better be over, because then at least a lot of these names will be out of F&O. By the way, talking about the stocks going out of F&O, and I was again going through that list of 34 stocks. Someone explained to me why in that 34 names you don't have the name of Reliance Capital and Reliance Infra. Honestly speaking, I'll not gonna, nobody will be able to convince me that, these stocks didn't need to go out and the other 34 needed to go. And, something like a BEML is going out of F&O, Indian Bank is going out of F&O, and RelCap and Rel Infra are not going out of F&O. I think that's bizarre.
Take your point. I guess I'm guessing right now qualitative frameworks aren't really applied. It is more statistics and numericals that determine how stocks sort of remain in and out of that list. But more on that coming up as well on the show. Right now, we are looking at a market which is down 17 odd points. As Anuj pointed out, Asia had a great sort of session. In fact, the Hong Kong market, by the way, was up 700 points today. Contrast that with our screen and things are very, very different. Yes, Europe is far more tepid. That's the Asian screen, but you can argue that Europe already had its share of the rally yesterday. European screen is kind of somber, and our futures are also down about 20 odd points. So let's just see how the next 1 hour plays out. It's time to get started on Closing Bell. This afternoon, the market sinks to the day's low as the mid-cap leverage fear takes center stage all over again. Stocks like Jain Irrigation, Jet, and the ADAG pack tumble in trade once more. We will be discussing a lot of these key trends with the fundamental experts, SP Tulsian of sptulsian.com, market expert Prakash Diwan, and Sudeep Bandopadhyay of IndiTrade Capital. All eyes, of course, on the outcome of the two-day FOMC meeting. Will the Fed surprise by delivering a rate cut overnight? Well, we will discuss the ramifications with Bruno Verstadt of Lakefield Partners. And of course, as always, lots of technical ideas coming your way. Ashwini Gujaral and Mitesh Thakkar helping us navigate through the last hour.
Okay, how should you position yourself in this last hour of trade? By the way, before we do that, just look at some more names. Yes Bank is now in danger of becoming a two-digit stock. And look at Wockhardt as well. That stock is now down 9%. That's what we were referring to in the morning as well, that be really careful of some of these news items on some of these troubled companies. So 8.5% lower on that stock. Ashwini and Mitesh with us for last hour calls. Good afternoon, Ashwini. It's been a reversal and a very sharp reversal. Your thoughts on what next and what would be your stock calls?
See, first of all, this indicates that the 50, the 20, all these moving averages, they are not working, because this sort of momentum and the way we've come off the highs, I don't think we are anywhere close to support. And now as we speak, now Reliance has also started falling, TCS is coming off. So I think we need to go much lower to find support, because if today you could not buy the dip, then I don't think the buyable dip is nearby. Having said that, individual stocks, Voltas is a buy with a stop of 600, target of 625. Raymond is a sell with a stop of 745, target of 720. And Wockhardt is a sell with a stop of 356, target of 340.
Okay, apologies to our viewers there. I think we have a slight technical glitch with the visuals coming in on that feed. We'll just fix that. Let's also bring in Mitesh into this conversation. Mitesh, I mean, for someone who was thinking that today is going to be a pullback day, it's been really disappointing. But on the index, would you look at fresh shorts now? And in terms of stocks, what are the ideas?
Yeah, good afternoon. So I think I would say really disappointed, because you did get a pullback eventually. I think, the markets did bounce back. But I think a lot of people were calling for a bottom, and I think that was very surprising yesterday, because I've been advocating that the overall setup does remain, quite on the weakish side. And there is no evidence of market strengthening when you look at the direction of the indicators, etc. So in that sense, I think, the market does look like choppy, but I think overall downward bias, and I would still bet on 11,580. That's the minimum target which I'm looking on the downside. That's where the the gap started when we had the exit poll numbers, and possibly 11,420, which is where the gap, which was the highest pointer of the 17th May trading day. So I think that gap, area of 11,580, 11,420. Those two levels should be tested, with 11,580 being the minimum area. My sense is that I think, having said that, there is a good chance that overall, I think, we might see more choppiness, but eventually I think lower levels are more likely to be visited. The stock calls that I have right now for the time being, I have a sell on L&T Finance with a stop at 114.5 for targets of 103, and BHL is a sell. Keep a stop at 68.25, look for targets of 64.
Fair enough. Don't know where to look, frankly. Just some of the hiding places for the market are now, they are being given up. A classical example is UPL. Now, that was one stock, perhaps among the most expensive index stocks, and that just kept gaining. And today you've seen first sign of reversal in UPL. This could be interesting. Also, poor monsoon, so that's not helping. So that's started to fall a bit. And of course, there have been some others as well. We've seen some bit of fall. Indabus Housing, by the way, is now down 12.5%. The stock still holding out is Kotak Mahindra Bank, though. That's sort of kept the bulls in the game today, 2.5% higher on that stock, along with some help from the HDFC twins. That really is helping the market.